Roger McNamee, the managing partner in Elevation Ventures or Partners?
Partners.
Elevation Partners. I'm getting my ventures and my partners mixed up. A $1.9 billion fund. You're also wearing, I noticed, rather shyly, as you do, an Occupy Wall Street t-shirt. As the managing partner of a large fund, aren't you then calling to occupy yourself? What's going on here?
I am. I believe that, I've spent nearly 30 years as a professional investor, and I am mortified by what has happened over the last 10 years. I believe that, to a first approximation, Wall Street has been allowed to run amok, and that the rules have been changed to permit behaviors that are enormously destructive. And I think the public market is almost like a centrifuge, spinning cash out of the economy. And this has required the willful cooperation of our government, of the banking system, of everybody who participates. And in my mind, it has to stop. The country is based on, the American dream is based on equality of opportunity. And my big problem with what's going on, not just in Wall Street, but in government and the other big industries in America, is that we've gone to a world where opportunity is in fact only available to the richest, best positioned people. Who you know matters more than how smart you are or how good your ideas are. And in Silicon Valley that's not true, but in general in America that is true. And I just believe that Wall Street needs to be reformed. For me, Occupy Wall Street came very late. This has been an issue. I have had to de-emphasize my day job to the point of, now I'm no longer willing to run our fund, okay? I look at this, my partners fortunately are. I'm willing to be-
You can afford not to, right?
I've been very fortunate, so yes, I can afford not to, but I can't afford not to speak loudly about this issue, because the truth is, I'm in a unique position to see what the flaws are.
What can Silicon Valley then teach both Wall Street and Washington, D.C., and how do they do that?
One of the interesting things is we've already done one thing. About 3 years ago, a Russian fund called DST and Elevation pioneered a notion of a private market for secondary market in venture capital shares. And together we did Facebook and numerous other companies.
Twitter.
We didn't do Twitter, they did Twitter, we did Yelp, they did, Groupon or Zynga. And the point is that creating a secondary market for the successful tech companies where the buyers are not traders, but in fact people with a 4, 5, 6, 7 year time horizon, has allowed Facebook and Yelp and Zynga to develop much more before they're subjected to the gauntlet of Wall Street. To my mind, Wall Street is so inappropriate, the public market is so inappropriate for growing companies today because the rules are set up so that those who would like to destroy you have advantages. There's an asymmetry so that people can destroy companies easily and you can gang up. On Wall Street, the big problem is that they can bring overwhelming capital into very small markets for short periods of time. Look at the price of oil. We're in a depression globally and oil's at $80 a barrel. What's with that? That is obviously a financial markets thing. That's not based on the demand for oil or the supply. And you look at it, there's a company called, I think they're called Diamond Foods in San Francisco, where for all I can tell, and I just look at the public stuff, short sellers been able to make up stories. They knocked the stock down $55 in 4 weeks by making stuff up, knowing that the company under the rules would not be able to respond.
On the secondary markets, though, isn't there a problem with a lack of transparency?
No, I think that's the beautiful thing about it. I think the problem is the lack of transparency in the public market. The problem in the public market is that the accounting industry has allowed accounting to go from a standard simplistic model to this infinitely nuanced thing such that financial statements mean absolutely nothing. We literally have to pay forensic accountants before we make an investment in a public company because the public statements don't mean anything. And yet with Facebook, what do you need to know? I mean, you watch the business. You can. It's transparent
you need to
because
know what their sales are. You need to understand where
okay,
their real business
but my point is, in that secondary market, now I'm not talking about, I don't believe that share post or second market are what we're talking about here. I'm talking about the negotiated transactions between adults, okay? Consenting adults going buyers and sellers with the company in the middle, providing what the buyer perceives as an appropriate level of disclosure. And what I'm really arguing with is your notion that the public market is better, okay? I totally disagree with that notion. And again, I used to run the largest technology mutual fund in the world. And I can simply tell you that in the 80s, financial disclosure meant something. There were lots of things they didn't tell you, but the things they told you were real. Now they tell you an infinite amount of stuff. It's like somebody saying to you, I want to know what time it is, and they send you 1 billion pounds of material. Somewhere in there is the time, but you're going to have to weed through 1 billion pounds worth of stuff to find it. And that's what Wall Street is today. It's really gangster capitalism where, you know, you have things like flash trading, the so-called high-frequency trading on NASDAQ, which is essentially an ability to front-run the public. So they're taking 10, 20% of the profits before the stocks even trade. It's really, all I can say to you is, this is technical stuff, but it's not complicated. It's
politics also gangster politics?
I think so. I think the country's really, you know, we spent 30 years doing the same thing over and over again, not realizing that it wasn't working. And, you know, we went at least 10 years too long borrowing money and buying things we weren't earning. And we did that at every level of our country. Consumers did it, the government did it, some businesses did it. And you look at this and you go, we have a price to pay. The sooner we recognize that things have to change, the easier it'll be.
You're distinguished by your unrelenting optimism in the technology business. Are you then as unrelentingly pessimistic about the future of America?
No, I would have been 6 weeks ago.
What's happened in the last 6 weeks?
The entire conversation has changed. What began in Zuccotti Park spread all over the world. And I don't know what's going to happen in those parks going forward, but I don't think it matters. I mean, think about how different the national conversation is today from 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, we were arguing as to whether it was okay to accept $10 in deficit reduction for $1 in tax increase, right? I mean, that's a completely ridiculous argument. It was a ludicrous thing. And we were arguing whether that was okay or not. What do we argue about today? We're arguing about there aren't enough jobs. That income in America is being captured by an artificially small group of people who have structural advantages. They're not gaining all this because they're smart or working harder. They're getting this because, you know, they're people like Murdoch at News Corp. They're guys who, you know, they've, for all intents and purposes, have political friends who protect them from competition and who protect them from having to work hard.
Would you consider going into politics, Roger?
Not for a moment.
Who would you like to see begin to formalize Occupy Wall Street? Because
I don't want to formalize it. You see, I believe that the important thing is that the conversation is started. We're going to have an election next year. Oh, somebody's going to get elected, a Democrat or a Republican, okay? But at least we're going to spend the next year talking about the right issues. I mean, to me, our system is fine. What's wrong is that we've gotten away from our system. What's wrong is that politics is no longer responsive to the average American. It's responsive to the most hysterical lobbying group out there, either the one with the most money or the one that screams loudest. And, you know, we're being ruled by well-positioned minorities today, and fortunately, the country's decided it's not going to take it anymore. So I'm actually unrelentingly positive about that. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know that the right person's going to get elected, but I believe that at least we're going to have a rational conversation. And as I say, I don't care about organizing Occupy. I don't think it's about that. It should mean to each citizen whatever matters to them, right? And to the 20% of the population who would like to take us back to some idyllic view of 1776, what I have to say to you is, dude, it's 2011. Get over it. If you want to live in 1776, move to Williamsburg, Virginia, okay? The rest of the country has to deal with a global market where we don't, you know, American exceptionalism is such a retarded statement because it assumes that such a thing is possible. You know, once we started torturing people and violating the Geneva Convention, whatever right we had to a notion of American exceptionalism went out the window. Now what we have to do is simply earn back the brand we used to have. And I think it's possible now. And it's possible because of Occupy and because of the things that has caused to happen on the side.
Well, Roger McNamee, I'd like you to come back on the show this time next year, after the election, to make more sense of what's happened. And I hope when you come back, you'll be a little bit more passionate.
Okay.
A little less shy. Because
I need to get more. This is the breakfast of champions for me, and this is a Pepsi hotel, so I've only had 2. So next time I promise to have 3, and then I'll really be on my best.
Well, Roger McNamee, a legendary figure on TechCrunch TV, thank you so much.
Andrew, thank you so much.